All right, hello everybody. It is Coach Scythe, your coach of the Atlanta Braviaries, bringing to you GSC Season 1, aka DTC Season 4 Draft Analysis. So, it's a rebranded version of the DTC. It's the same league, same basically everything, just with a new name and more leagues. So, there's an A League, a B League, and a C League. I unfortunately am part of I dropped down to the C League. I'm not like it's not unfortunate that I'm part of the C League. For the C League people watching this, I did not mean it like that. But the unfortunate part about it is that I know no one from the C League, so I'm not really excited to be like, oh, I gotta play this guy or I gotta play this guy, because all my boys are up in the B League, and even Q, the Costa Rican, and Hero, and Flygon are up in the A League, so I don't get to play any of them. So I'm hoping I need to go all kinds of crazy this season, just so that I can get back in the B League. And yeah, that's basically it. So this is draft analysis for season 1. It was a standardized point draft system. So basically, the Mons. How do I word this? The Mons were sort of tiered, right? And then each tier was given like a point assigned to the tier, and you had 120 points to build a team of 11 Pokemon. So you could draft an 18-point mon and yada yada, as long as you stayed within your budget. So you could have like two 18-point mons, like a 15-point, and then like 8 1-point mons, because it's technically within your budget. But obviously the broken mons are at the beginning of the tiers, like the 18 points and 17 points, and the bad ones are at the 1 points and the 2 points. But there are some hidden gems, and I think we got a couple of them low key. And so I had an 8th pick of the overall draft, and out of 12. So it's very close to the wheel. It's not in the middle like it would be if I was in the B League, because they have 16 people. So very fortunate for that. Very fortunate. And I think I drafted a pretty good team, low key. So with that being said, let's get into the draft analysis. And starting with our round 1 pick, we got the button clicker of the year. Okay, we got Urshifu. Urshifu is a really great mon, an amazing choice band / choice scarf user. It could be a great assault vest user because it only has a base 60 special defense stat, has a base 130 attack stat, base 100 HP stat, and 97 speed. So it's like entering that middling speed tier. And it gets a pretty good move pool as well. Obviously close combat, wicked blow are the main things. It gets pivot with U-turn. It gets Iron Head and Poison Jab for coverage. It gets things like Ice Punch and I believe Fire Punch. I don't think, and Thunder Punch as well. It also gets Zen Headbutt. So if I need Zen Headbutt, I can do that as well. There are a couple of things I can do with this mon. This mon could be like a bulkier set and have leftovers / life orb as well, with like maybe like a bulk up set, sub bulk up close combat wicked blow. That could be an entire thing right there. Obviously I'm not the best when it comes to using substitute. I think is a what's the word for this, a move you sort of have to practice a lot in order to fully get down how to use it effectively. And I'm not one of those people that know how to use it effectively. I could see, extra belt could also be some pretty good stuff as well. Like I said, there are only a few specific items that this mon like really works well with, and those being like choice band, choice scarf, leftovers, life orb. And that's basically it. Its ability is amazing. It gets drain punch for recovery, so if I need like recovery, I can run drain punch as well. But yeah, that's basically it. Does it get body press? It does get body press, and it gets iron defense. Has a base 100 defense stat. So if I'm really feeling myself, iron defense body press could be an entire set right there. Yeah, but it gets rock slide as well for the flying types. I'm gonna try to come in on it. U-turn, wicked blow, like I said. And that's basically it when it comes to Urshifu. It's a really great mon. Just clicks a lot of buttons. And that's basically my button clicker of the game. I think I built a team sort of around Urshifu. There are some mons that sort of revolve around Urshifu. They weaken Urshifu to clean up in the end, or they don't weaken Urshifu. They weaken the other mons for Urshifu to clean up in the end game. So I hopefully um, in the ability to be able to use that effectively. But yeah, that's basically. There's not much to say. It can set up as well, like I said with bulk up, but obviously it's not the best set out there. But I can definitely see some scenarios where it works. I can definitely see that. And moving on, we drafted Sylveon. Sylveon is one of the mons I sort of based around Urshifu. Urshifu is weak to fighting types. And Sylveon's not. So Sylveon can be a wish passer. I believe I'm allowed to baton pass a wish. If not, oh well, we'll figure that out. But if not, switching out always works as well. Obviously, choice specs, that hyper voice, mystical fire is an entire set. You know, this mon has a lot of potential. I think it has a lot of potential. It gets access to Shadow Ball too. For I don't know what type of mons that are weak to Shadow Ball. Try to come in on this thing. I don't think any of them, but it gets access to Psyshock. For those poison types, they're gonna be trying to come in on it. Just a little bit of coverage. Like I said, Mystical Fire before for the steel types, it gets coverage for every type that it's weak against. Unfortunate that it's not in one move, but it's okay. We'll work our way around that. But its ability Pixelate is actually really good, which is why Hyper Voice is a viable move for Sylveon to run. Pixelate making normal type moves, a fairy type move, really great. Also gets access to priority with Quick Attack, which could definitely come in handy. It can toxic things. I'm not the one to stall. And you're gonna be like, are you sure about that when you see the rest of my team or like my next two picks? Really, mostly my next two picks. But I don't like stall. Stall is a pretty cheap tactic. I will rarely ever try to stall in order to win a game. If I know I don't have a game won unless I stall, I'm not gonna stall. I'll give you the win. It's one of those scenarios. Like if I lose my win con and my only option is to stall, I'm not gonna stall because I'm not that type of person. I'll try my best. But I could definitely maybe stall out a mon. Like if it's gonna die to one toxic and I click protect, that's a very viable strategy. It's not a bad thing. So where was I going with this? But yeah, it can be a cleric. It gets wish, like I said. It can be offense. I recently, if you checked the LET Week 3 battle, spoiler alert if you haven't, we lost. But I think they ran a bulky offensive Sylveon because I was able to outspeed it with my Rotom and I had no speed investment on Rotom. At least I believe I had no speed investment. But even if I did not think I was going to outspeed it unless Rotom outspeeds naturally, which I don't think it does. But even then, you'd have to have no speed investment in order for me to outspeed you with no speed invested Rotom. But yeah, that's basically it. Like I said, Cleric can go on the offensive. Could this thing benefit from a Scarf here and there? Yes, possibly. Definitely for sure. As long as the matchup calls for it. So, moving on. We picked up Skarmory. This is why I said you guys are going to think I want to stall, but I really don't. I did not do Skarmory justice last season when I had it. So I'm definitely going to try to use it more here. One of the best hazard removals in the game. Gets access to defog, like defog. What? It gets access to defog. It gets access to stealth rocks and spikes, so it can set hazards as well. Body press is pretty viable now because it has a base 140 defense stat. Obviously Brave Bird's also a thing, along with Iron Head. It can set Tailwind too, so if I'm really feeling myself, Tailwind's a thing. I believe there was a sub Skarmory set that I've seen before somewhere. I don't know if it's a normal thing, but it's a thing. Obviously, it gets recovery with Roost because it's a flying type. Most flying types get Roost. And I think, personally, this is a really good check to Urshifu, both single and rapid strike style. Because whoops, I dropped something. Okay, anyways, we're good. Because it's very defensive on the physical side. And it's going to resist the surging strikes attack. It's going to resist the wicked blow attack. It's neutral to close combat, and we just roost in front of your face. So I think I drafted pretty good checks to Urshifu here, and I'm really glad that I did, because I have an Urshifu of my own. I know there's another one out there, and I don't want to have to worry about someone's amazing check to Urshifu. Obviously, there are better checks. No, I wouldn't say better. Basically, checks that are on par with Skarmory when it comes to Urshifu, like other fairy types out there. But I think I did draft one of the better checks to Urshifu personally, and I could very well be wrong, and we'll see as the league goes on if I can use it correctly. But it gets recovered, like I said. Body Press, Brave Bird, Iron Head if it calls for it. And yeah, that's basically it. I could air slash flinch some people if I'm really feeling myself. Obviously, I'm probably never going to do that, but it's a thing. It is a thing. There are a couple of things this thing can do. It can remove hazards, set Tailwind. It can set hazards and defog. It's just, I think Skarmory, but for its move pool and for its stats, I think it does basically what most people want it to do, and that's remove / set hazards. And I'm really glad that I was able to pick it up. I did not do it justice last season. I hope to do a lot better job of using it this time around. That's it. So moving on, we drafted Toxapex, and the reason I would have never drafted Toxapex, until maybe for a while. But I recently got toxic stalled by someone with a Toxapex, and this was in another Wi-Fi league that I'm in that I don't post about. And they said that once I took out their Gigantamaxmon, that their only win con was to toxic stall me, and it was so annoying. So annoying. But moving on, let's see. So this thing basically does a set few of things, but it does them really well, like Skarmory. It only does a couple things, but it does it really well. It sets toxic spikes. I'm gonna turn Do Not Disturb on my phone. It sets toxic spikes. It can toxic things as well without having to do toxic spikes. It recovers. It gets access to Baneful Bunker, which, from what I'm grasping of the showdown description of Baneful Bunker, if I Baneful Bunker on something that's hitting like a Zen Headbutt and it makes contact, if it's a contact move, I believe it gets poisoned, but I don't really know. If I'm really not running Toxic, I can run Scald or I can run Sledge Bomb. Those things have a chance to burn and poison depending on the move, respectively, varying. And that's basically all that Toxapex really does. It sits there and eats hits. This thing is the CEO of bulky water type Pokemon. This thing, I think, pairs really well with Urshifu. Like I said, not wanting to take the fighting type attacks, Toxapex will take them. Not wanting to take a flying type attack, Skarmory will take them. Not wanting to take another fighting type attack, Sylveon will take them. I think these four right here can work really well together. Like a lot of people were saying with my team, or well, not a lot of people, but some people, my team basically weakens down Pokemon for Urshifu to clean up in the end game, and I believe that is very, very true. But it's not a bad thing. Building around a mon is something that is pretty common. But yeah, that's basically it. It scalds, it Sludge Bombs, it recovers, it Baneful Bunkers, it sets Toxic Spikes, and it toxics itself. That's all the Toxapex really does, and there's nearly not much else to say about it. So, moving on. We drafted Alolan Marowak. Now tell me about a fire type. We started our Fairy Steel Dragon core with Sylveon, and we have Skarmory as our Steel type. We started our Fire Water Grass core with Toxapex and Marowak. Marowak is our Fire type, and Toxapex is our Water type, obviously. Marowak gets access to Lightning Rod, so not only is it immune to fighting type attacks, but it can also be an electric type immunity if I really call for it. If there's a really big electric type threat that nothing else can really handle, Marowak. He sits there and he eats it, right? Because it's not doing any damage, and he clicks Earthquake as well. What do you have to do? Like, what do you do? You probably have something for it, but what do you do? But you know, its ability Rocket is also really great. Obviously, not taking recoil damage from Flare Blitz is always going to be lovely. And gets its own personal item with Thick Club, which basically I think it doubles attack stat if I'm not mistaken. Thick Club, yeah, attack is doubled. So Flare Blitz is going to be doing even more damage with the Thick Club. Choice Bandit sets are also pretty common. Life Orb sets can be pretty good. This basically gives me a really powerful item that's going to boost my attacks while also possibly being able to set. While also possibly being able to set up. This thing gets access to knockoff, which is pretty good. So if something wants to switch out, I can click knockoff, get an item off of something, which is always nice. And it also gets access to stealth rocks. So my hazards are pretty racking up here. And you know, if I'm really feeling it, I can toxic and willow some stuff as well because it gets access to those things. But stealth rocks can be pretty useful as well. If I'm not bringing Skarmory to a match, I can definitely bring Marowak and have him set up stealth rocks. If stealth rocks are pretty valuable in the game, but Skarmory doesn't look good in the matchup, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. This thing gets its own personal physical ghost type move with Shadow Bone, which is pretty cool. It's Boomerang too. Shadow Bone, I don't know, because Shadow Bone's a guaranteed hit as long as you're like not confused or your accuracy is lowered, which I don't think it can be. I think there's a rule against accuracy lowering moves. But Shadow Bone is a guaranteed hit. It gets access to Poltergeist, which isn't a guaranteed hit, but it's more powerful. So our ghost type move will vary depending on what I'm really feeling. Depending if I need more power or if I need more accuracy, really. So moving on, we picked up Rotom Mow. I needed a grass type, and I needed the ones in like the I guess the middle tiers, I guess you would call it. And Rotom was there, and I thought, you know what? It's the only grass type that I feel like would be pretty good for my team. It gets access to Defog. It can click Leaf Storm, which is its grass type move. It gets Discharge, which has a pretty decent chance of paralyzing some targets. It gets Thunderbolt, it gets Thunder Waves, it Toxics, it Tricks, it Willows. So Willow Hex can definitely be a thing as well. It's an electric type that doesn't care about ground types unless you're Excadrill, because it has Levitate, and obviously, if you're Excadrill, you have Mold Breaker. Sometimes, depending on your team, you have Mold Breaker, and then Levitate doesn't matter. I die to an Earthquake. You know, it's one of those things. But this thing can be pretty bulky. It's base 107 into both defenses and a base 105 special attack stat. This thing benefits really great from a Choice Scarf. I know it's a really good Choice Scarf user. A Leftovers Life Orb can also be pretty good. Maybe a Choice Specs if I'm really feeling myself. I know Choice Specs isn't super common, but you know, it's a thing. It can be a bulky pivot with like Thunder Wave, Defog, Pain Split, Volt Switch. That's basically the set I ran on my Rotom Rosh this week in the LET. Didn't get to use that though, which is kind of upsetting. Maybe we can use that another time with both Rotom forms here. Rotom, I think all the forms are I think have their own uses and are really, really great in their own right. So I love the Rotom forms. I think this will be pretty useful to my team, and I'm just really glad that it's here, and I'm glad that I have it, and I hope that it can put in some work for us. So moving up, we have Mega Houndoom. So doubling on types is pretty nice sometimes, I'm not going to lie, because once your Dark type resist is out of the way, like Say you took out Urshifu, but you have no more Dark type resist. Oh no, Mega Houndoom. Or say you took out Alolan Marowak and your Fire type resist is gone. Oh no, Mega Houndoom. I think doubling on types in this scenario could be very useful. I unfortunately don't have a Sunsetter, so solar power won't be as useful. But I'm sure we can hopefully try to figure that out as time goes on. Yeah, but this thing it does a couple of things. It has a really good special attack stat, really good speed tier as well, and pretty decent defensive with base 90 in both as well, and 75 HP stats. So it can be bulky, it can be a bit fast on the faster end as well. This thing really only like clicks Flamethrower and Heat Wave / Overheat. It can Will-O-Wisp and Toxic as well. It Dark Pulses. Basically, it really only useful things would be its Stab most of the time. It can Nasty Plot, which would be pretty decent. Because once like I'm at +2, your switch-ins are kind of limited. You know, it's one of those things. But yeah. That's basically, like I said, it stabs. The stabs that it gets are really good, and are most of the time what you're going to be running on Houndoom, or what I'm going to be running on Houndoom, because it's almost basically all it gets. Mostly like it's his good move pulls, like in the useful moves, mostly are fire types / dark types with a bit of normal types, but we don't really need some normal type attacks. Honestly, I don't think we'll need normal type attacks, because what good will normal type attacks do us for? I mean, it could be a thing, but it probably won't be. But like I said, Flamethrower, Heat Wave, maybe even Overheat, could definitely be very good for us, and I'm excited to really use this mod. It almost got drafted last season of the DTC, and the DTC got drafted almost. I almost picked it up, and I hope that it can be useful. I think it definitely has potential. So moving on, we picked up Porygon 2. So I think Porygon 2 pairs really nicely with Alolan Marowak. It is a Trick Room setter, and you're gonna notice that my team is very on the slow end. But it's got really good. It's got decent stats. Has base 90 defenses, base 105. Special attack stat, and a basic 85 HP stat. This thing is able to run an EV because it's not fully evolved yet. It gets Trace, it gets Download and Analytic, all really great. Really great mons. Analytic can be pretty cool because if I'm running Porygon, I'm probably running a defensive Porygon. So therefore, I'm probably going to be moving last most of the time, and having, like analytic boosted attacks could definitely be very useful in some cases. Like I said, it pairs really well with Rotom. Obviously, fighting types are going to want to hit this thing because it's the only thing that can hit this thing for super effective damage. I go into Alolan Marowak, who's immune, and I click a button. But that's basically it. It can set Trick Room, which will be very nice for my team. And it can recover. So I do have a lot of recovery options for a good portion of my mons. I have Wish, I have Roost, I have 2 recover mons. And everything gets Rest and Sleep Talk. So recovery is not much of an issue when it comes to my team. But if I'm running this thing, like Trick Room obviously could be an option. I could do some attacks with maybe screens, because I think it gets screens, gets reflect, but I don't see no recover or light screen. Oh well. It also can teleport too. Teleport can be very good for us, because it always is going to move last. Teleport makes you move last. So Porygon 2 takes a hit, it teleports out, and I get basically a free switch in. It's really, really nice. Also, if I can get a slow U-turn on some things, like with Urshifu, if I have a slow U-turn, I I get some chip on a mon, and I get a free switch basically. It can definitely have its uses. I'm really excited. Like I said, I like how my team sort of came together. I think this team, like a lot with my LAT team, I think this team can benefit from a trick room here and there. And so that's something that we'll definitely have to test out for some of our matches. So, moving on, we needed a dragon type, and we drafted Drampa. Drampa surprisingly gets access to defog. Did not know it got that, but I think this thing could be a very, well, I wouldn't say a very good, but a decent choice specs user. It could be a decent leftovers user. I think those would be the main items, along with maybe like Life Orb. If I'm really feeling myself, I can do a Life Orb Calm Mindset. That'd be pretty cool. Not gonna lie. Obviously, the main moves are like Draco Meteor, Flamethrower sometimes, maybe even Thunderbolt, depending on the matchup. It really just depends on what I'm going against and what I need for my team. Like I said, it can defog, and it can also set Tailwind, which I just noticed. Crazy shit that Drampa can do. It gets access to Surf as well, which is also pretty cool. So it can be a fire type switch in because it's resistant of fire type attacks. I mean, obviously, its defenses aren't the best. Its special defense is pretty good with base 91. Its defenses aren't most of the stats that you'll really be looking at when it comes to Drampa. But like I said, it can be a fire type switch in because it gets access to Surf. It clicks Surf. Oh no, your fire type's gone. It gets access to Energy Ball, so it can be a water type switch in, and it gets access to Thunderbolt as well. Obviously, Thunderbolt would hit a lot more than Energy Ball. Well, I mean, they each hit different things respectively, so depending on the matchup, like I said, a lot of the times movesets for me depend on what I'm going against. And it's no different for Drampa here. You'll definitely see different movesets every week depending on the matchup. It gets Berserk, so when it's at 50% HP, my special attack stat can be raised by 1. So what was I thinking? So maybe like a citrus berry, get down to half, citrus berry, Berserk pops type thing, you know? It's one of those things. I think it could work, possibly. Obviously, it's a scenario type thought process, but it could have its uses. Sap Sipper is really good. Cloud9 is really good as well for some of the weather teams. Because there's, I think, a hail team somewhere. I think there is a sun team somewhere. So it can be very, Cloud9 can be very useful in some scenarios. Sap Sipper also can be very useful because it gets Flamethrower, so it can be a grass type switch in more than it can be like a fire or water type switch in, because it's immune and Sap Sipper raises attack by 1 stage, but we don't really care about the attack stat because we're a special type of we're a special attacker, because its attack stat is base 60 and it's not the best stat. But even just having immunity in general will always be really nice. And that's basically it. Drampa gets a pretty wide move pool, and I think it can definitely have its uses. And that's, like I keep saying, my team definitely benefits from a trick room for sure. And so next up we have Mr. Rhyme. Mr. Rhyme provides me with a spinner. So if I'm ever in need of a spinner specifically, Mr. Rhyme is always an option. It also gets access to Screen Cleaner, the ability which will get rid of Light Screen, Reflect, and Veil. Such an amazing ability for some things, for some teams. If they have like a specific mon that will set Veil or set Hail. I'm thinking of Ninetales, that's why. If it sets Veil or if it sets Reflect and Light Screens, oh no, Screen Cleaner Mr. Rhyme, what do? Your screens are gone. Low key, it could choice spec some stuff. You could do a choice spec set. It wouldn't be the first option, but it can be a thing. This thing can set Trick Room as well. But yeah, I think this mon right here could definitely be a good leftovers user. I mean, any mon's really a good leftovers user, but I think this one mon right here could benefit from having leftovers on its side. It's neutral to fighting types because it's ice and psychic type. But I think I think this could definitely be useful. Like I said, gives me a spinner. It gets access to Thunderbolt, so that can be pretty decent. It gets access to Freeze Dry too, so things like Gyarados, um, things like Gyarados, Pelipper, if there's a Pelipper running around, um, 4 times effective move, or any water type, for example, like any water type, and then even then, the same ice type weaknesses are still going to take good damage from Freeze Dry, so it can definitely be a useful mon, and I think it has its uses for my team, and I'm really excited that I'm gonna say I'm really excited, but I think there will definitely be matchups where it could call for Mr. Rhyme to make an appearance. It has pretty decent stats. Defense stat is not the best. Speed stat is not the best. HP is base 80, so it's alright. Has a base 110 special attack stat, which can definitely be useful. But other than that, there's not much to say. It gets access to I feel like its main sets would be like Psychic, Freeze Dry, Rapid Spin, and then the fourth move depending on maybe Trick Room or Thunderbolt with a Choice Spec set. Choice Specs could be a thing. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, I would never run a Choice Spec set because this is more supportive of a mon. Only me would do some crazy set like a Choice Spec set. It's probably out there somewhere. It's definitely out there. It's definitely not an absurd set for sure. So moving on, we drafted Girder. Girder is another EVLI mon, and it gets access to Defog, and it gets Guts as well, so it's a great status absorber. But this thing, obviously, its main stuff is like defogging. It can Toxic, possibly. It can Taunt as well, which would be pretty cool. It gives access to Close Combat, so its main sets would be like Close Combat, Defog, and then 2 other moves depending. Probably like Toxic maybe, or maybe even Drain Punch or Mach Punch could definitely be useful and have their own uses. Having priority on any type of mon is always really nice. And Mach Punch can definitely come in handy. It gets access to Knockoff as well, so Knockoff could have its own uses as well. But that's about it. Like Girder is like a very solid defogger. Cause it's an Eviolite mon. It's a mon that will mostly use Eviolite, and have like defog and things like that. It could knock off as well. So knock off, defog, taunt, fourth move could definitely be a thing. Knock off, defog, toxic, or knock off, defog, toxic, close combat could be a thing. It really all depends. Honestly, sets only really depend on the matchup for the most part. But yeah, that's basically it. I think that basically covers everything when it comes to Girder. Girder, it's mainly a defogger. Most of my removal is defog. I have 1 spinner, but I think I have pretty solid removal in general. So that's going to be it for my team. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm really looking forward to seeing how everyone is in the C League. Like I said, they are full of new people. I know literally no one from the C League. But yeah, I think this is a pretty solid team. Maybe I can make a few transactions here and there. Mr. Rhyme was a transaction from the grace period because I originally had Raichu, but I decided to drop it for Mr. Rhyme. I think maybe a few transactions here and there would not be a bad decision depending on who I'm dropping and what I'm dropping it for. So we'll see as time goes on. But other than that, I think that's all I really have. I think this is a really solid team. I'm kind of happy with how it came out. But of course, I think I want to see how it performs throughout the weeks before I make any big decisions. So with that being said, I'm Coach Scythe, your coach of the Atlanta Braviaries. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you at week 1 of the GSC, which, well, I don't know when that will be coming out. Maybe Monday? Monday next week. It really all depends necessarily because we don't even know the schedule yet because not all the leagues are done finished drafting, yada yada yada. You don't care about that stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. We have another league on the channel along with the LET. And yeah, that's gonna be it. So like I said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.